Hi, my name's Sean Fennings. This is a shortish introduction, the first video that I'll be putting up as part of my new YouTube channel, which will really be the purpose of explaining my interest in gaming hardware and software, the sort of things that I've actually got in detail, showing reviews etc of games that I've got and also games that I'll be getting, and also I suppose just explaining a bit about what I am and what I enjoy doing as part of one of my hobbies. I have had some recent inspiration from a number of YouTube channels that I've been looking at recently. Never really got into it, but I see it's quite a good benefit really. I've learned quite a few things recently. It is interesting to hear what other people have to say about similar interest in what I've got. So I thought I'd give it a go. I suppose a bit about myself really. I've been interested in gaming, whether it's arcade gaming, console gaming or PC gaming, for quite a long time now. I suppose it all started off when I got my first home computer, which was a ZX81. I then shortly moved on to ZX Spectrum and playing around with hardware like that, including Amstrads, BBC Model A, Model B, Electrons, etc. And that sort of evolved over time into looking at the gaming market, the home gaming market, home consoles really. I sort of missed out the first generation of gaming consoles, which are likes of not Super Nintendo, the Nintendo Entertainment System and a NES, and the Master System. And I jumped straight in at the first sort of next gen of the era gaming console was Sega Mega Drive. Shortly afterwards I went out and managed to grab a Japanese import Super Nintendo excuse me, and that really got me then into the into sort of import scene really, and it was the real eye-opener for me for sort of arcade gaming in home. I personally think it was the first generation really of consoles that really brought that experience to the home environment. Such conversions as Final Fight, Street Fighter, Super R-Type were just absolutely phenomenal at the time. They really were, and they still hold their own to this very day. And I still do play those sort of games from that era. But in my opinion, it was the first time that such a faithful arcade conversion or suite of arcade conversions really hit the home market. Graphics and sound was just outstanding at the time. So sort of off the back of the Super Nintendo, I also got hold of a Neo Geo. I was very lucky at the time because they were sort of hideously expensive, really. The gaming cartridges alone were around sort of £200, so it's a lot of money. And it sort of evolved from there really. I suppose it was part of my life that really evolved around gaming. Even though at the time I was I was a teenager, in my late teens, just come up to I suppose about 20 years of age, but I was still playing games a lot in the evenings. A lot of my friends were sort of into playing games, and I suppose at the time it was even though it was still a niche market then, it was becoming more mainstream. I think it was the start of all the things being mainstream really to do with console gaming in home. It wasn't really declared then as being geeky, whereas perhaps before it was a bit more. So it was starting to break those barriers down really. But yeah, I also bought consoles like PC Engine, Jaguar, Game Gear, PC Engine GT, and a number of these consoles I still own now and still play, albeit very rarely, but I've started to get back into that now. And of course that's sort of led to consoles like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Dreamcast. I was quite heavily involved in the Dreamcast era when that came out. I absolutely love that console, still own it today, still play it, great games on that. And then it was sort of the final sort of generation really, after gaming consoles like the like Nintendo 64 and the GameCube. It was obviously present sort of recent times really, as regards to the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, which I'm heavily into. But something I always wanted to do was to actually have the ability financially and the space to actually own my arcade, own my own arcade machines. It's okay having a console, but when you really like arcade games, the actual console ports, I think until very recently, it wasn't like playing on an arcade machine. It really wasn't, and I think until you've experienced it on an arcade machine, then it is a different experience. And it could be exactly the same in the way it's presented to you, but just playing an arcade machine just makes it that much better in my opinion. So over the past 12 to 14 months I've been purchasing and getting involved in the sort of old school arcade scene, and I've got 4 cabinets now, 4 arcade cabinets, one which is a converted betting machine cabinet into a main cabinet. It's got a PC in there, which is quite a common conversion. I've got 2 Sega Naomi cabinets which are actually still in use in arcades nowadays, even though they've actually stopped producing them, but they're known as Candy Cabs. Excuse me. And finally, the latest addition, sort of to the cabinet family, is a Sega Limburg cabinet, which is one of the latest sort of high-spec HD cabinets. So it's got an LCD screen on there. It's obviously high-resolution graphics, and they were developed and used now for sort of latest generation of arcade hardware and software. Games like Street Fighter 4, Blaze Blue, Tekken 6, etc. So yeah, so I've got quite a wide variety of hardware, and obviously in future videos I'll actually go through all the different types of hardware I've got, and obviously the games that actually I'm playing on them as well. And sort of finally, really, just to sum all this up, and the final driver to get me to actually do some videos was as part of me sort of retro gaming sort of incarnation recently with the arcade cabinets. Has been down to getting involved into shoot 'em ups as well. I like beat 'em ups and I like shoot 'em ups, and I've just recently purchased a Japanese 360. There's a bit of a story behind that, and I might go into that in another video. But I've got a brand new Japanese 360, and I've got 6 Japanese shooters so far for that, and I intend obviously building that collection as and when new games are released. So yeah, so that's sort of a bit of background about me. Like I said, I hope to go into more detail on specifics on both hardware and of course the games that I play, and do some mini reviews, etc. So hopefully you'll enjoy watching those. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching this introduction, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks.